Hi, this is Becky Nunn, on location at Fusion Beads. In this video I want to show you how you can use colorized resin with a transfer sheet over the top and then another hit of clear resin over the top of that to create interesting pendants like you're seeing here. What you'll need for this technique is to have watched a video on how to mix the Nunn Design resin and how to add the opaque casting craft pigments. You'll need to have learned about how to use the Nunn Design transfer sheets and how to prepare resin-filled open back bezels. Those can all be found on the Fusion Beads website. The first step is going to be creating a layer in the base of all of the pieces. For the open back bezels, you want to just drizzle a little bit of the mixed resin with the opaque casting craft. I have a white in this just to create this nice opaque color. Place it into the base, just enough to get it started, and then you're going to use a toothpick to move that resin around to the corner edges. I like to have it on the business card so it's easy for me to rotate it around. Using the toothpick around the side edges agitates the resin and makes sure that there's not any air bubbles trapped inside along those edges. On an open back bezel, this is really important because when you take the tape off the back, you will see those little air bubbles. So just taking your time and making sure that it's nice and agitated will prevent that. On these pieces, because we're going to be adding a transfer sheet over the top of it, we're going to want to make sure that the resin is nice and flush to that edge. If it's slightly concaved, the transfer sheet won't lay in there quite right. You'll see in just a bit as we go over that. So bring that resin right flush to the edge, and if you get any on the side edges, use a Q-tip to wipe that free. On these pieces here, these are much easier, but you still want to move that resin around with your toothpick and bring it over to those edges. I found that doing it this way also helps me not to get any resin on that side edge. If I help guide it to that corner, this point down here, I can push it down inside. I'm still double checking that I don't have any air trapped down inside of there. Now I can just bring it up just a little bit more to bring it up flush to that edge. And do you see this tiny little bit? I have a tiny little air bubble right there. Just go in there and just even just slightly agitating, and I got a little fuzz right there that I can get out. Now you're going to want to let this set up for about 12 hours until it's hard to the touch. Once your pieces have cured about 12 hours, they will be hard to the touch. Resin continues to cure for another 24 to 48 hours after that, but to remove the tape off the back, they should be ready within 12 hours. If you start to pull and you can see that it's slightly bending, the resin itself, stop and let it cure for a little bit longer. Depending on the heat and the humidity, resin takes time in different locations. These pieces are fully cured, and you can just peel off the back. And you can see on these, there's not any air marks inside of there, But if you didn't go around those side edges, it's really easy for there to be like a little bubble mark where the resin had some air trapped down in there. So remove the paper off the backs. And then I like to use this product called Goo Gone by just dripping a couple of drops right onto the back part and letting it sit for 1 minute to 2 minutes. It'll totally activate the chemicals and remove that gooiness. Just take your stir stick and just scrape, and it'll bring up any of that sticky residue. I have found that this is the best that I can. I've tried all kinds of different methods to get that sticky tape off of the back, but this seems to work the best. Once your pieces are scrubbed and cleaned, you can use a wet wipe or even soap and water to just wipe away that Goo Gone and to clean your back surface. I have also found that using a Q-tip with a little bit of alcohol on it helps. Now that surface is all nice and clean and there's not any sticky residue. Now we're ready to apply our transfer sheet over our colorized resin and put another coat of clear resin over the top of that. So the next step, you'll need to mix another batch of the Nunn Design resin. You'll have needed to drop your transfer sheets into some water to separate the film front from the paper back so it can easily slide off and into the resin. To create a surface to attach the transfer sheet, put a small bit of resin right onto the pendant. Then use a toothpick to gently guide it around and create a nice flat surface underneath. I have found that it creates a totally different look if you have a wet surface in which for the transfer sheet to go down onto. Now I have a little bit too much of the resin, slightly domed, and I want it to be a little bit less, so I'm using my toothpick to roll this and pick up excess resin, and then I can deposit it back into the cup. Now I'm ready to put my transfer sheet into and onto the colorized resin. So as you can see, the transfer sheet, once it's been dropped into water, it'll separate off of the paper back and slide right off and into your resin. I made that look really easy, and it is easy, but it does take a little bit of practice. Now I'm using my toothpick to move the excess resin and potentially any excess air out from underneath the transfer sheet. And sometimes I need two toothpicks to kind of hold this into position as I move it around. Now I'm ready to apply a little bit more of the mixed clear Nunn Design resin on the top. It's best just to drizzle a small amount on and to continue adding more. than to over pour. I'm bringing it right up to that side edge, and I'm using my drizzle stick to pull that resin around. The Nunn Design resin is self-doming, so it just wants to know where that side edge is, and it'll stop right at that edge. That's why it's really nice to have it on a business card, because I can easily rotate it around and see it without getting my fingers anywhere near that side edge. Then over the next an hour or so, I'll be double checking to make sure that I don't have any air bubbles that are rising up to the surface. If I do, I can use my toothpick to slowly drag it over to the side and pop them, or I could use my breath in a puffing, huff-like sound to make the resin expand and pop. And that's how you use transfer sheets over colorized resin within an open back to create great pendants that you can make into fantastic jewelry. This is Becky Nunn with Nunn Design at Fusion Beads. I hope you enjoyed this video.